Today we're going to delve into the world of the niche subwoofer. And what I mean by niche is that, this is really a special application kind of sub. This isn't a sub that you'd look at and say, I can use this thing anywhere. There are really specific use cases for this sub that make it very appealing. But for other use cases, it's probably not appealing at all. And the sub that we're talking about today is the Velodyne Microvee. And this is the old Microvee. There's a new one. I don't have one of those, but I wanted to talk about this because I think it's kind of cool, right? For folks that need a sub like this is one to definitely think about. SVS has released about a year ago their small form factor subwoofer, which I think is bigger than this one. I think it's an 8-inch with dual passive radiators. Well, this one is even tinier than that one. This is a 6.5-inch active driver dual passive radiator. So it's a base reflex design, not sealed, and it's not ported. The two passive radiators take the place of the ports, so they vibrate from the back waves off of the main active driver to give you that extra output. So, why would you want to use something so small? That's the big question that you have to ask yourself. Why would you want this kind of subwoofer? And for me, this comes into applications where size is an issue, right? This can be because you're living in an apartment and you don't need huge subwoofers, but you want a little bit of extra low end, or this goes really well in a gaming system, or you just have a small bedroom that you want to add a little extra punch to, but you don't really want to invest in super big subs, or that just doesn't make sense from a space point of view, or maybe you just don't need that kind of output in the room. So, this is, like I said, a very niche competitor, but if you need a sub in that niche, this one really is a good one to check out. So in the rest of this video, we're going to go over the specifications of the subwoofer, then we'll get to the measurements in REW, that's the good stuff, and at the end, I'll give you my final thoughts, but I bet you can guess kind of what I'm thinking already, but wait to the end and you can hear exactly what I think about it. And with that, let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at these specs. The Velodyne Microvee has a complement of 3 drivers, an active 6.5-inch forward-firing driver and 2 passive radiators, both at 6.5-inch on the sides. Remember, a passive radiator is just a cone and a weight. It doesn't have an active motor structure, so it takes the place of ports in a base reflex design. Amplification is Class D at 1,000 watts RMS and 2,000 watts max. The rated frequency response is 38 to 120 hertz at plus or minus 3 decibels, and we'll look at that a little bit closer as we do measurements. On the rear of the unit, you'll find a subwoofer volume control, a power switch that lets you select between on or auto, the low pass crossover, a switch that allows you to choose between the internal crossover or a subwoofer direct setting, phase of 0 or 180 degrees. On the input side of the house, you have a pair of RCAs. The left can be used for LFE input. You have 3.5mm jack in and through, and you also have high-level speaker inputs for those 2-channel applications. Rounding out the rear of the enclosure is the power input and the power switch. Now time for the fun stuff. We're going to take a look at the measurements of this Velodyne Microvee. Remember, in room, I've got this set right under the screen in the center of the front of the room. Microphone is the main listening position, about 9 feet away, and this is the exact same setup that I use for all of my measurements. So you can compare these and have some level of comparative relevance. So we started out with our baseline measurement, and things are okay from 100 down to about 40 hertz, and then 40 hertz is where the sub takes its slow roll off down to the abyss. So I gave this guy another 3 decibels of volume out of my Accurus Act 4 processor, and it handled that quite well. And this takes us up to, what is this, about 90 decibels at 40 hertz, and we got a little spike up here at 95 decibels at 68 hertz. And remember, this is some room stuff and some room stuff here, so this should be pretty smooth, discounting any room interaction. Gave another 3 decibels, and things look pretty hunky-dory here as well. We're almost up to 100 decibels at the 68 hertz area, and then down here at 41, still pretty flat, coming in at what is this? 93.5 decibels. And remember, this is a 6.5-inch driver, so this guy's working hard to put out this sound, you know, and I'm hoping for 95 decibels out of this guy at 40 hertz. So another 3 decibels, and we are getting to that 95 decibel level, but we are starting to get some compression right here as it goes on that slide down at 39 hertz. So let's give it another 3 and see what happens. Yep, now we're compressed all the way across, getting really tight here on this downward slope. So, you know, this looks like we're going to get about 95 decibels in my room, across the board, down to about 40 hertz, where things start rolling off. And you know, down at 30 hertz, well, let's down to 20, just call it 20. That last octave, you're going to be down 10, 20, 30, 40 decibels. So it's a pretty steep drop off. I would say that functionally in room, you're going to be looking at something down around the 30 hertz level, where you're going to be useful. Under that, not so much, and really solid down to 40. And that is a lot of good work being put out by this 6.5-inch driver. Okay, so you've seen what this thing is all about. You've seen the measurements. So let's talk about what I think. So from a performance point of view, not really surprised, right? You know, a 6.5-inch cone is only going to go so low, and you know, the REW measurements kind of back up what the performance of this one is, right? You know, at the areas where it can perform, I think it does really well, but you know, if you need that super low end performance, it's just not going to be there, and you just have to understand that going in for this sub. But if you need this small sub and you need some performance, you know, kind of 30 hertz and higher, this guy is pretty darn cool. You know, physically, it looks great, and it is microscopic. I mean, this thing is super tiny. I mean, you can't get a subwoofer smaller than this, and the output coming out of this thing, you know, honestly shocked me. It was so much more sound than I expected, which is freaking awesome, right? So, you know, if you're looking for a small form factor sub, and you're not going to cry too much over the lack of super low end, then you got to absolutely give this a look. Now, remember, there's a new version of the Microvee out there, so I would strongly recommend that you go for the new one, right? And when I get my hands on one of those, I will put out, you know, a review, and maybe we could even do a compare and contrast on the two so you can see the difference there. But, you know, as I said, this is a great buy if you're looking for a very, very small subwoofer that doesn't need super low end, like I said, as in a gaming system or in a small bedroom or in an apartment. All right, so with that, please like and subscribe, ring the bell, do all that stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next video.